Hey, welcome to Rationality, Reason, Reality. I'm Supernova. You may have already guessed this, but I'm a liberal, a progressive. But before that identity, I find myself to be a rational person. So I'm going to set aside my liberal bias and speak about something that the liberal media have done that really irritates me. Back on December 20th of last year, about 3 weeks ago, there was a shooting in New York City where two police officers were killed in retaliation for the death of a black man in New York City. And it was very clear that the shooter was a liberal. He sent out on Instagram a message saying that he was doing this killing in revenge of the one black man who died. He said, they got one of ours, we're going to get two of theirs. And so he killed these police officers in revenge. And the liberal media, who wanted to protect uh, the idea of liberalism by protecting this one liberal, went on a smear campaign against these cops, Lou and Ramos. Lou, they said, was a gang member who had a father who was also a gang member, and they showed pictures of him holding up what they called gang signs. And this guy Ramos, they've been showing this video of him pulling off a crime that's unrelated to why he got shot, but they're still trying to make him sound like a criminal. They've used the word thug many times to describe him. And if you're not following along with me and have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm making this up. The liberal media did no such thing. I have never been so proud to be a liberal because we are not we are not showing any hypocrisy on this. We're not hypocritical because this is what conservatives have done. In the case of Trayvon Martin, they tried to make him seem like a thug, and they called his father a thug. And in the case of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, they showed on Fox News and many other outlets this video of Michael Brown pulling off a strong arm robbery, which wasn't actually related to why he was shot or even arrested, but still they were trying to go on the smear campaign to make these people sound evil, as if their supposed crimes were deserving of death, and they weren't. And it was tragic even if you believe these things, and it's so insensitive, I think, for them to do this. Imagine if you actually believed what I was saying about the cops. How awful would that be if in response to the cops getting shot, we responded by trying to make them sound like really bad guys? That hasn't happened. There are links below, two of them that I found, that describe what I'm talking about with Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. I looked hard on Google. I couldn't find any liberal outlet who said anything bad against these guys. Not only did we mourn along with the conservatives, and we said it was a very bad thing, the liberal media have gone on to tell their viewers that this is not something that we condone. We don't like violence. That's what makes us liberals, first and foremost, I think. We condemn this. We don't support these actions. Now, of course, conservatives have harped on about how we're not protesting the death of these cops like we did with the death of the black men. But what is there a protest? This guy Brinsley, who shot the cops, he's dead. I believe he commits suicide. There's nothing to protest. There's no injustice. He's gotten all the justice we can give him. We can't resurrect him and then send him to jail. We've done all we can. There's just nothing to protest. If we could, we would. We'd be for this guy going to jail for life. Probably not dying because we're liberals. Now, I'm going to describe in this video the difference between liberals and Christians and why we have these different responses. I might just mention the reason that I'm shooting this video today, 3 weeks after the incident, is that I just found out that the KKK is getting involved with the protesters in Ferguson, Missouri. One of my Facebook friends posted this link and was all supportive of it because he's a conservative, and it just seems so bizarre to me. The KKK are literal terrorists. They're well known for putting burning crosses on people's lawns in order to scare them to get the result they want. they're not nonviolent protesters. They are in some cases, but generally that's not what they're known for. And I hate this, but violence is part of being a conservative. I'm going to cite the book The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. If you haven't read it, you ought to. It's a very good book. He describes the goals of conservatism, and he says that its aim is to make a close knit group, to make a society that works. And that actually happens to be the reason for liberal ideology too, where we've got the same aim, but we go about it in different ways. The conservatives try to shun everybody who's not in their in group. It tends to lead to things like racism, because there are going to be racists among their group, and they figure that the best way to get everybody, racist and non-racist, to get along is just to get rid of the other races. It means that they try to exclude people who aren't of their religion. It means they try to get rid of people who aren't of their nationality. Conservatives, more than liberals, are patriotic and don't want to be allies with other countries. They don't want to be part of groups with other countries like the UN or NATO. They tend to be against things like that because they're not inclusive. Their idea for making a good society is to simply make it as small and core as it can be, so that there's just nothing to hate about the people who are around you. Now, liberals, on the other hand, want a society that includes everybody. We're all inclusive. We try to make friends with other countries. We try to get along with people who are different than us. We respond through tolerance. We don't need for people to change or to be excluded. We just try to change within ourselves this ability to get along with them. And naturally, we don't want to be violent because we don't want anybody to suffer. We don't want to hurt anybody. We feel kinship with everybody. We care about regions like Darfur and Rwanda where people are getting hurt. We care about those people, even though they aren't part of our technically in group. I mean, they are. We care about all humans. We care about people and animals and trees. Tree huggers tend to be liberal. Not all of us are, but some of us even include all living things within our circle. So we don't want violence. We don't want the death penalty. We don't want husbands beating their wives. We don't support parents beating their children. We don't want people getting weapons because they'll hurt each other. We don't support war. We want peace and diplomacy whenever possible. We respond non-violently towards others. Conservatives, on the other hand, tend to get violent because you can't just ask people to stay away from you and exclude themselves from your group. You can't just ask politely. They tend to have to get violent in order to exclude other people, which is why they tend to be hawkish and want to go to war. Liberals like myself often see it as bullying, especially since we tend to be stronger than all the other countries. But nonetheless, it makes sense from their point of view. It's okay with them if everybody else is dead. I mean, these black men who got shot, they're kind of okay with that because that just means more people in the outgroup who don't exist, who they don't have to exclude anymore. I mean, it seems really evil, but it's just the way it works. I can't picture myself being that way, even though I was conservative at one time. It feels like a different person. I just can't be that exclusive. So because I also tend to make these videos about Christians, I have to point out that it's awfully weird that conservatives are Christian, that Christians are conservatives, because there are two gods spoken of in the Bible. There's the God of the Old Testament, Yahweh, who segregated the Jews, who decided that they should kill everybody within their borders and then seal up their borders and not allow anybody in. He was a very conservative God. And then there's Jesus, who was liberal, who loved everybody, who included the Samaritan woman at the well, who talked about the Good Samaritan in his parable, who didn't commit violence against anybody, who loved the poor, who was good with the sick, who sat with the publicans and tax collectors, and he just cared about everybody. And Christians say that they model themselves after Jesus, and what would Jesus do? They want to be like Jesus, follow in his footsteps. They don't. They model themselves after the God of the Old Testament. It just strikes me as so weird. But anyway, I think I've gone on enough about this topic. I hope I haven't bored you. I hope I've given you actually something to think about. Also, including those two links below, I'm going to include something from Mother Jones that backs up this idea that it really is racism. That blacks are killed disproportionately. That not only disproportionately, but in places like New York City, more blacks die than whites, which is weird because there are far less blacks than whites in the city. Uh, it tends to be a racial thing, and I really hope that racism goes away. It seems like it's just too late a day and age for it to still exist. Why does the KKK still exist? Why does anybody support them? Anyway, feel free to comment below and keep watching my videos. Appreciate it. Peace.